Hello, boys and girls. We have a few subjects to talk about tonight. Content authenticity, bitching and moaning in crypto, and new updates on FazRadio and the FazRadio Discord. You have anything to add there, Mr. Titan?
I think it's going to be a heck of a show. A lot of new good stuff.
And that's our shorter video.
We're moving on up. Video. So the changes are moving a little bit slower, obviously, than we thought, but that's okay because we're still moving forward, and progress, no matter how small, is progress.
Of course, that's what you can tell people.
That's what I go by.
We've switched the Faz. We switched the Crypto Faz Academy Discord. We said this last week to become the FazRadio Discord, and we're not concentrating on Gala anymore. We just have a crypto channel there now.
And I think that's a good thing. Regardless of Gala or not Gala, just focusing on one small ecosystem, it's like a drop in the bucket, right? We want to open this up for a lot of different things, and we had 50 god million channels there for a while, and it was like unmanageable. So Faz went in with a broom and just swept everything up, and everything's rolling along very well. People have found where they can have some good conversations. And some of the former Gala channels are still active and available in the on the bottom of the server, by the way.
I like the Gala Gold channel because people still want to talk about gold things, but and Gala Legal Talk. So those are still there. I just took away the Gala Stuff channel. Just rename that the Crypto Stuff channel. So
and Faz wants to get into that a little bit here tonight after our prime topic is exhausted, and talk a little bit more about the why behind the why. No, I know. So Faz has like severely advanced Alzheimer's, I think.
That's called a life.
And he forgets what time we start many times. And then I've done that a few times myself because he'll poke me and be like, waiting on you. And I'm like, what? So we're getting our act together finally. We've been very consistent the last few weeks, and we're going to turn even more consistent when we get to our changes later on in the show. We're going to fill you in on our conversations from this week.
So I wanted to talk about content authenticity. This is just something I've been paying attention to more and more. And there's actually cryptos that are trying to address this thing. So I'm sure that people have heard about an AI tool that lets you take a single picture and turn it into a live video, and they can plaster somebody else's face on your face. We can, maybe if this tool becomes available, we'll just switch faces, me and you.
That would be interesting.
I bet there's actually some podcasts that could go and just disguise themselves pretty easily just by picking, I don't know, a Chewbacca face. No names being mentioned there. But this is both scary and interesting at the same time. One is basically it's getting to the point now, if you see any video on the internet, you don't know if it's authentic anymore. And that's a problem. There needs to be a way to determine that it's authentic. Well, there happens to be certain ways to make videos like this authentic, but it's going to require us doing more things or doing things differently. Like basically, having KYC on every picture out there on the internet. It's kind of funny how crypto was going through this big KYC thing for the last couple of years. And now it's becoming apparent it needs to happen to photographs and stuff like that.
The photographs and video is amazing because, and I was right before the show, I was trying to find it and I can't. There's a new image generator, and I forget the name of it. I think it begins with an F, but it's like 4 letters long, and it is out of this world. I mean, there's absolutely no way you can tell that it's fake. It's absolutely crazy.
There's probably, if you know the person or something like that, but it's becoming a lot harder to determine that somebody and something is fake.
It isn't like putting Zuckerberg. It's not like famous people. These are people that don't exist.
Yeah.
And it just creates them. Now, do you remember what I'm talking about? Because it was all over Twitter last week.
There's one picture of some chick that was like talking with a microphone, and people were
on stage,
trying to figure out who was fake, either that chick or somebody else, and people would get it wrong, and basically you're having to scrutinize it more and more. You're like, oh, what's the shadows looking like with her hair, or look at the pattern on her shirt. I mean, if you have to scrutinize things to that level, people are going to be fooled no matter what. I mean, it's especially if you get older video, like, I don't know, video of Joe Biden in the 1970s. You wouldn't know if it's him or if it's AI generated, just because the video is such crappy level that you won't be able to tell the difference. So, I mean, all sorts of stuff like that.
Well, I read some of the articles that you posted, and it was bringing up a little bit of rage in me about that, right? And not for the fact that you can't tell the difference, but we're getting to a point now where there's nothing that you can believe anymore, which dovetails into your tweet the other day that I pushed back on you about facts. So if you have these images,
about that tweet is that was retweeting something from Caitlin, what's her name, who's trying to get Custodia Bank going, which is the first crypto bank. That was a very wise thing she said, and I simply retweeted it. So yeah, you can say facts mean different things to different people, but verification matters and standards matter. I've been banging on standards for the last 3 years. If you have a standard, then you have something to hold somebody to. But if you start saying, well, anybody can believe anything, all you're doing is just acting overwhelmed by your own ignorance. There is ways to consolidate facts down to known reproducible things. You're just not talking about them. I don't agree. I'm sorry. It is pure 100% perception. That's not how the world works. See, perception doesn't keep an airplane in the sky. Perception doesn't govern the signals to satellites. You're watching this podcast right now on something that's likely sending signals to and from satellites. If you're using your phone, coming to and from satellites. So
that's not how cell phones work, Faz. Cell phones don't use satellites.
They use cell towers. And how do you think the cell towers contact other places?
Old phone lines. Satellites. It goes over regular old phone lines. That's what the cell towers connect to.
Oh my God. This is what I'm talking about. And this is why verification is so important, is because you have people like this person down here who seem to not understand how the world works. And there's no way to prove it to them unless you can have some sort of authenticity stamped on it. But here's the rub. Each person is going to start determining what they feel is more authentic depending on who stamped it. If Google stamped it, yes or no. If Fox News stamped it, you're not going to be for it. If CNN stamped it, you're not going to be for it. So there's a problem in getting something deemed authentic. I was talking to Gala Gang on the FazRadio Discord last night, who seemed to be going on this bender about all the things that he finds wrong in the world. And you can determine whether a lot of those things are true. He was going specifically off of ChatGPT and the fact that I like to use ChatGPT. There's ways to verify things from ChatGPT and from Google and from whatever. But because people get overwhelmed by all the choices out there, they go, "Oh, it can't be validated. We can't figure it out."
Faz,
So-
I'm going to prove to you with 2 statements. I can give you 2 statements that you will think are fact, but I bet you'll disagree. And it'll be perception.
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
Yeah.
Statement 1, the sky is blue.
Statement 2. What's your next one?
XY chromosome means you're male.
So our society happens to be those are actually 2 separate areas, which I'm happy to talk about. As far as the sky being blue, we are all humans that have a brain, and we seem to identify certain wavelengths as blue and red and so on. So we can actually tell if the sky is blue and what exact color it is by examining the wavelengths. Now, what you're talking about is if your brain, for some reason, somehow shows you blue looking like red, or if you're colorblind, or something like that.
Or if you're born blind, the sky is black then.
So, well, no, there is no sky. So, well, actually,
There's a sky,
but you can't detect it. These things on the front of your head, they are sensors. And those sensors can be different than other people's sensors. It doesn't change what the definition of blue is. Blue is a wavelength that we have determined what it is. If your sensors decide to show it to you as red, if there's a way to verify that, great. But you're saying something that you can't actually verify. You don't know if I see red as blue and blue as red. What you can only say is you might not see it at all because you're blind. No, that means my sensors are broken. So that's the first one. The second one, whether an XY chromosome means you're male or not. So there's a couple of layers there. One layer is a physical distinction. Another one is a societal distinction. The physical distinction is we think that 2X chromosomes means female. Now, what's funny about that is when the human body begins growing, when an egg gets fertilized, everyone is female. And it turns out that males, biological males, tend to not develop along certain lines. And then, you wind up not developing. And that's why that's the result of XY chromosomes. Now, it is possible to have XY chromosomes and be outwardly presenting as female. Okay, so that means there's more than just chromosomes going on there. So now it becomes a societal thing. Does society like that fact? How does society deal with that fact? And of course, you have a third part, which is this person mentally female or not? Society has a real problem with that because society really doesn't like to deal with, I can turn this off now.
Because you're wrong and you don't want people to see it.
What? Oh, stop.
Cell phones generally transmit through towers, not satellites.
Generally,
they can.
Right?
They can.
There you go. And I didn't make an absolute.
Oh, now you're trying to walk it back, Faz. Walk it back.
There's nothing being walked back there. I'm sorry. So what I'm trying to say is our definitions of male and female have changed over the years because our society is starting to get so prosperous that we can now we are now honoring mental distinctions as well. Like then there's the concept of marriage. What is married versus not married? What is marriage? Well, some people see it between a man and a woman. Other people,
those aren't facts. You're off facts. Stay on facts. Is XY chromosome male or female?
So to the best of our knowledge, an XY chromosome means that a person is male. However,
okay,
humans. Listen. There are humans that present as female or non. What do you call it? Intersex, and they might have an XY chromosome. Now, the thing is, how male is this person? Because it becomes obvious that it's not just one thing. You're saying, does this mean that? I say, to the best of our knowledge, it is, but it's starting to turn out that there's more to being male and female than just the chromosomes. There's other processes in the body that form your sexual organs and stuff like that. Fine. Okay. But here's the rub. The whole problem is how society deals with that. If you are an XY chromosome person that presents as a female, that looks female, I mean, sexual organs and everything, mixing sex and gender. If in 200 years ago, nobody would question that you're a female. They just wonder why you couldn't have babies. And yeah, I love that fact that people are starting to recognize that gender is different than sex. I'm all for that. Does our society need to divide people on sex? Why? Why do we need to be divided on sex? We're just human.
You're going off into conjecture and everything else. The topic was
facts. Your question is to the best of our knowledge.
Well, okay, so you see, that is a scientific fact that's reproducible, and funny pun intended, as well as it involves your perception of what male and female is because of the societal things. So Faz, you've proven my point that it's based on perception. Facts aren't facts. It's perception, except when it's your fact. When you have a fact, then it's a fact and there's no perception. But when other people have facts and you don't agree with it, then it's not a fact, right?
If you choose not to say that a certain frequency is blue, it's still blue. You've just decided that it's not blue. Yes, you can do that. However, most humans don't do that. And so from a philosophical point of view, you can say that anything is anything else. From a practical point of view, science works whether you believe it or not. So again, planes do not fall out of the air because you don't believe that, because you don't perceive it. Now, if you just want to talk about something like the color blue and you want to just call it something else, it's still going to follow the rules of wavelengths. So
same with XY chromosomes and XX chromosomes.
What we're finding out with XX chromosomes and XY chromosomes is that there's more to what we perceive as sex than just the chromosomes. There's more going on. Again, if you are biologically a male, yet your body has developed as a female without any other any other interventions, you're going to be seen as a female. Period.
But I'm not trying to have this political or societal debate. I'm trying to nail down what is a fact and what is not a fact. Is it or is it not a fact that people that come out with XY chromosomes are male and females are XX chromosome? Is that a fact or is that not a fact?
I think that has been something that has evolved through time, because 3,000 years ago, nobody would have an issue trying to figure out who you are. Because we have more information now, we're all of a sudden deciding it's a bigger deal. Now, apparently this only matters when you, like in the Olympics, if somebody's competing, if you have someone that looks like a woman, has always been raised like a woman, has had no interventions as a woman, gets in a boxing ring with another woman and wins, and then you find out that person has an X and Y chromosome, then they start saying that's unfair. Okay. But there are women, XX women, that are probably more beefy than that person.
So
that to me says, to honor what you're saying, maybe we're doing things wrong if we're having to divide them at all. Maybe we should divide people by what punching power they have or what their physical abilities are. It would make things more fair.
So to get off the chromosome thing, we've kind of beat that one into the ground. To go back to your blue wavelength, what happens, Faz, if you're on the ground here and I put a prism or a magnifying glass onto that beam of light, that wavelength of light that's showing as blue, what happens to it?
It's going to be split out into its components. So if you take a white light, for example, a white light contains all colors. If you put a prism on that, you're going to see every single color in the rainbow. If you have a red light, and you shine that through a prism, you're not going to get all the colors coming out of the other side of the prism. You're going to get some colors. That's because, the way that different colors work. This is all based on perception.
Yeah, Shanrat. Team Titan all the way, baby.
Just because you say that you're better doesn't mean you are. I'm talking about science, which can be verified
No.
outside of what I'm saying. In
So
fact,
listen.
what you can even do if I'm saying it wrong is you can correct it by looking to see how prisms work to separate colors. So
Well, I'm not arguing that.
This is not something that you can say is right or wrong. This is a reproducible fact. So
right. And I'm not arguing that. What I'm arguing is that if you put that same light that produces the blue wavelength for the sky through a prism, your perception, but your perception of that blue light is now completely different. So it isn't a solid, pure wavelength. Your perception is that wavelength at that moment in time with the atmospheric conditions the way they are. That doesn't mean the sky is blue.
A prism doesn't change what that blue light was. It's splitting it out.
It's not what I said.
You're seeing it in a different way. That's it.
Right. You're seeing it in a different way, so you have a different perception of that light, right?
After you
so the light, right, the light was changed by something. So you can't say that it's a fact that it is shown out in a blue wavelength.
Okay, so you can say, what is a human? I can chop you up into 14 pieces. Which one of those pieces are human? You'd probably say, well, they all are. This is a human finger. Is that human finger the entire human? No. So if you take a prism and you split up a blue light into its components, are those lights that come out of it? Are those the original blue light? No, they're not. That is something that is scientifically verifiable. This isn't a perception thing. Perception is about how you actually read it in your brain through the sensors that are in the front of your head. Now, when you're talking about chromosomes, you're talking about something that we don't fully understand.
We understand them.
No, we don't. We're finding out every day that we do not know how life works. We know bits and pieces, and we can generally predict how things work. But every once in a while, something comes along that causes us to reconsider how everything works. We don't. So
science changes.
No, science
is what you're saying.
Change. No. Science is a method. Science isn't a fact itself. It is a method to find out facts. All you need to do is write stuff down and start comparing. That's your method. And so you can do this with anything that you don't know, and you can eventually come up with verifiable facts. So if you want to say that an XX chromosome is a fact that it's a woman, you're going to find human beings with XX chromosomes that do not present as a woman, that do not look like a woman. So that's not a fact in that case. There's more to it. I think you're looking for a black and white answer here.
I'm not looking for a black and white answer.
Definitely an AI bot. Definitely. I can tell you this for a fact. I spun him up about 3 years ago, and my whole purpose was to cause him to be completely contrary to everything that I would say. That way, it gets the conflict going. That's how we get more viewers, by the way. We do get more viewers when we have conflict.
So we went down a rabbit hole. Let's kind of wrap up our discussion on the content authenticity. And I've been saying this in these preliminary discussions. Personally, I think this sector is going to absolutely fucking explode. Okay. With how fast AI is coming along with what they do, the image generation, the movie generation, the short film generation, then you're going to have to deal with copyrights and trademarks and everything else. Somebody could put out a movie in the likeness of Tom Cruise, right? If that happens, it's AI generated. Remember, you can't patent that. You can't trademark it. You can't do anything with it.
You want to switch sides here? Because I can argue that it's just a perception, and that really is Tom Cruise, and you're just perceiving that it's it might not be.
Well, my point is that these companies that are doing this are going to be huge because of how fast this is coming out.
I'm glad that this conversation started like this, actually, because you're not going to be able to tell what is true and what's not on the internet. And so what you're going to do is you're going to stop looking at the picture and you're going to start looking at what other people say. And you're going to say, well, I can trust VeriSign, or I can trust Shutterstock or something like that, because They have vetted this picture as being real. Then they're going to somehow sign that picture and give it their stamp of approval. Oh, that's all great until, I don't know, your favorite political party decides that they don't find that picture to be valid. And then you're going to start saying, well, I will only determine I will only think what's valid what my favorite political party stamps it as. Now you're going to have different forms of truth. Now, there's one way to determine truth, and that's through the scientific method. Well, one way that I know how. Well, there's probably another way, which is psychology, but that's not really a complete science. Scientific method can help you figure out the truth, but it's always going to come up with certain pictures. Some pictures are going to be so good that no matter how you look at it, they're going to look real. We're going to get that good. And I think there's going to be a problem with just authenticity in general. Yes, there's going to be a lot of businesses out there that are going to make money by providing their stamp of approval that this is real, but there's going to be a problem with that because people are going to not believe them. And then they're going to demand something different. So that means even more companies are going to get into it and provide their spin on what's real and what's not. So you're going to have a big space where people are coming in here and starting up companies and making a lot of money to tell you that something is real or not. And then they're going to tell you their method. Some are going to have a scientific method. Some are going to verify that the EXIF data on the photo, and some are just going to make shit up. Those are probably going to be your favorite political party.
So to keep with the always undertone of conspiracy, do you think that the government is quote allowing this misinformation and the ability to fake things so well so that they have plausible deniability for things that they have said in the past?
I think the government, just like us, is bamboozled by the sheer volume of fake stuff that can be out there, and they're probably doing their best to try and keep up with it and take advantage of it. I think the government is going to have their angle, and hopefully the government doesn't try to control anything like that, but rather, I'm fine if the government asks for or demands for standards. I do have a problem if they define standards. How long did they have what in the shadows before giving it
AI?
AI? Oh, it's probably been around for a while, but I think it's once it came to a certain level, people thought, hey, we can sell this. And now we're seeing AI models, which I don't think are ready for prime time. It's not, AI models are not given free to us. It's a business model to do that.
Well, it depends. You get it as part of usually another subscription, like Grok just came out. If you have X Premium, you get Grok 2 for no cost, right? So
Gmail, for example, is not free, but it's given to you free. You can use it free. You're actually paying for that. You're actually paying
with your data.
Gmail. You're paying for it by losing by giving up data. Yeah. And that's how anything else is going to be given to us. You will be given, and this is the thing. When somebody says given to us, no, things aren't given to us. Everything comes at a cost. Come on.
So as a closing pull on this, do you think the legitimacy of the actor or company that comes out with these verification systems is going to play into this? Meaning, yeah. I don't mean to sound ridiculous when I say this, but is there going to have to be a certification by somebody else given to the company that they're certified to certify other things as authentic?
I mean, there's no end to that. I mean, you only have to watch politics for a while to realize that people will ignore in completely correct things. You can show them evidence and proof all you want, and it doesn't matter. They will ignore it and just choose to believe what they choose to believe. So in one sense, I'll just say for the rest of the world, yes, verification will be needed. Just like you have a driver's license, that's a verification that you are you, because you've been able to provide certain documents which we seem to all agree as enough evidence to show that we were born or that we have a certain age or whatever. If you don't want to believe that, then you're going to have to test everybody, their bones and their blood, to see how damn old they are, and perhaps their teeth to figure out where they came from. But I
don't need a piece of paper to prove that I was born. I'm right here.
But you might be an evil foreigner.
Maybe.
Not the good foreigner kind, the evil foreigner kind. So how do we know you are you and that you are not an evil person? Yes, we know you're born. It's obvious you're born. But were you born when you say that you're born? You don't need a piece of paper to tell you that? Apparently you do in today's society.
Well,
we use our driver's license for virtually every sort of thing here in the United States. Yeah, you need a piece of paper.
I can get anybody's birth certificate and claim that it's mine. There's no picture or fingerprint or anything associated with it.
That's not going to work out very well for you. And if for some reason you do fool somebody, the moment that they find out, you're going to jail. I mean, that's how we don't have a completely accurate system. We have a system. And that's the same thing that's going to happen with verifying that pictures are correct. There's going to be companies that are going to figure out if this stuff is correct. All these pictures are correct on the internet.
So you're going to have your birth certificate certified that it's not an AI fake?
If you have a picture of it, we're talking about pictures. Okay. Now
I can go to Amazon and get a paper smusher stamp in about 45 seconds.
Yeah. If you try to go around our existing systems and you get caught, which is very likely unless you are very, very good. If you get caught, then you go to jail. That's how we solve these problems. It's not a perception thing. It's if your story makes sense. If there's anything out of line, if you're gonna lie and say that you are me, for example, hopefully you know every documented fact about me, because the moment that you don't and it doesn't line up, you're gonna get in trouble once they figure it out. If they don't figure it out, then you succeeded. But it's getting harder and harder to fake being somebody else these days.
I'll agree with you there. It is harder. Not that I've tried it.
Why? Why is it harder?
What do you mean? Why? I don't understand your question.
Well, why is it hard? Why is it harder these days to impersonate somebody else than it would be 3 centuries ago?
Because of the digital security layers that we've put together. For example, Face ID. For example, the ability to be what is that thing called? Hologram. The hologramming.
Well, let's start with the Face ID. How does Face ID verify that you are you?
Very simply, my digital footprint is all over Apple. And if I'm the only one that can use the Face ID to get into my Apple account, that's a great verification that I am who I say I am.
No, that has a verification that a person looks like you uses that account. What I was getting at is at a certain point, those pictures on your account are going to be shown right next to the picture that is on your driver's license. And if it is determined that the pictures in your account look like the ones in the driver's license, they're going to say, to the best of our ability, this is Titan.
Right.
So that's how we verify things right now, is through documentation. They're going to always go back to the driver's license picture or some official picture. As far as your birth certificate, if somebody says that they only take a birth certificate, that's on them. If they want if they want 2 forms of authentic identification, that becomes harder. Birth certificate plus a driver's license. That's not
plus a social security card, which doesn't have any biometrics or photographs on it either. You can take those 2 plus a water bill and get a driver's license.
You know why they use a social security card as a piece of identification? Probably don't. The reason they do that is because that starts a paper trail. Social Security is when you have a job, you give them your Social Security number so that taxes can be taken out. Your tax record can be verified through that. So if you were to go and write a bad check and present your social security card to whoever cashed this check, they now have a number that starts a paper trail that they can figure out all your past jobs. And then they can go, this is not the right guy, because all these people in these past jobs, they don't seem to recognize him. Oh, one of them took a picture of him. That doesn't look like him. They'll be able to figure out just through you presenting that document by the records that it helps you find out. That's how identification works. You don't need to. So if you bring a birth certificate, you can bring that forward. What social security number did this person get when they were born, and where else has this been presented? There you go. If you're in the military, you've probably given them a copy of your birth certificate. So, or two forms of identification, maybe not that, but that's how that works, and people seem to ignore that fact. Anyway, getting back to the pictures, verifying pictures. So right now we can't determine a lot of what is true and what's not on the internet. I've been getting on TikTok more because FazRadio is now on TikTok. Yay. And I'm seeing a lot of what appears to be staged videos on TikTok. And of course, whenever you see a video, you immediately want to have a judgment. You want to say, oh, that's fucked up, or that's crazy. But you don't know anymore. And so, because some of them are obviously fake. And so now I kind of want to see a stamp of authenticity on those before I even react or have a judgment. A lot of people don't care. They'll just judge it anyway. They'll be like, I don't care if it's fake. That's still fucked up. By the way, we're probably not going to be scoring well on TikTok today. Yeah, some of the social media that we've been jumping onto apparently has issues with foul-mouthed YouTubers. Strawman, your birth certificate means you are a corporate entity for the bank system. We are just a number. See, that's pulling other things in. Yeah, the bank system is all fucked up. Yeah, how corporations work is fucked up because, well, we all know corporations are people now. So there's all sorts of things that dovetail into this. I'm just talking about identifying people. And yeah,
so Zorro.
So that's how we identify people, is through evidence. You can perceive whatever you want. You can say whatever you want, but you get enough facts together, we will find you, or anybody will find you. The government will find you. An investigator will find you because they can put enough 2 and 2 together and find your current address, because this is where Titan lived 20 years ago, and it rhymes with what we have right now. This is Titan, and he looks like that. And most of the time, they're going to be correct.
I disagree on that, because it took them how long to find Osama bin Laden?
Osama bin Laden wasn't an American citizen. There was a different different country with a different set of rules. And
John McAfee, a lot of those people, they suddenly couldn't find him. Anyway, Zorro, yes, Jordan Maxwell. Read up on Jordan Maxwell. That'll take you down a rabbit hole you'll love. I got stories about Jordan. He is somebody who has exposed a lot of things that are happy coincidences. With things like your straw man, and how things really work. Like, it's maritime law, for example, is what he professed, is what the court system is about. You pass the bar, which is like on the ship, and only people who are authorized, the captain and so forth, are allowed to pass the bar. And I mean, he goes into how all this stuff works.
Is this a writer that likes to write about the occult? What?
You've got the wrong Jordan Maxwell then.
Apparently so. A preeminent researcher and independent scholar in the field of occult and religious philosophy. Not that guy. Well, maybe this Jordan Maxwell isn't very popular. He can't outshine that dude.
No, he's extraordinarily famous. He was in Zeitgeist film. That you're the one who made me watch that. He was a big player in the Zeitgeist films. Yeah,
the Zeitgeist films to me were very nice because of some of the things they said about the Federal Reserve and some of the things that they said about religion. I think the guy did a lot of leaps of faith, no pun intended, but he had some good stuff in there.
I forgot what we were moving on to for part 2.
Well, bitching and moaning about crypto.
Yes. Take it away, Fazopolis.
Yes, one of the reasons why we have a FazRadio Discord now and not a Crypto Faz Academy Discord anymore is I had thought 3 years ago that Crypto Faz Academy could be a place where we could learn about crypto, where we can reflect and start talking about this crypto does this and that crypto does that. And boy, that's a good fact that you've learned. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that as a wise reason to invest in something. No, that's bullshit. Okay, people invest in crypto because they just want a quick buck. And then when they lose their quick buck, when they make their bad investment decisions, then they get all pissed. And I've been saying for 3 years on FazRadio that everything you do with crypto is a speculation. It's not an investment. That investments are a different kind of thing. I mean, I could even make the argument that stocks are not an investment, that they're speculation. But whatever the case is, crypto is still at the point where it's far more speculative than even stocks. And people have the balls to get bent out of shape that their favorite crypto is going through the floor or their favorite project is screwing them over. And they put tens of thousands of $50s of thousands of dollars to a certain crypto project and it failed them. And it's like, that was dumb. I mean, I've been saying this for years and people get bent out of shape because they make bad investment decisions. Now, luckily, I've made some good ones. I've lost a fair amount of money, but I don't, complain about it. I just go, okay, that was dumb of me. I made some dumb mistakes. Other people don't do that. They get mad. They get really mad and they hold personally accountable the people that run these projects. Like, I trusted my money to you and stuff like that. Well, that only works if there's regulation in place and people are complaining. They really want regulation, but they don't want to be regulated. And so they want the cake and eat it too. They want to put all this money into a project and get all this money back and no regulatory authority keep them from losing their money. And then when they do, all of a sudden they want to report you to the Better Business Bureau. They think that you're a bad person because you've done all these bad things, but they didn't want that to begin with. They just wanted a quick buck. That's my rant.
That is part of what we've been saying for the last at least 2 years on several projects is that you get to a certain point and you've made the point, you've tried to hold those responsible accountable and you can't do it. There's like literally nothing you can do other than
to do it out there right now.
Well, I'm saying other than going to a regulatory body like the SEC or the FTC for sales practices and stuff like that. If you're not going to go to that level, why would you continue to make the same complaints over and over and over for literally years?
For years.
And so that's
just be like, I'm done with it. I lost my 50K. I'm just going to go sue them and I'm getting out of this crypto because it's terrible.
Right. And that's where you saw a lot of people walking away from crypto, right? You have a lot of these people now who got burned 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 30 times, and they're just walking away. And unfortunately, it's going to be twice as hard to get those people back in when there is good and solid platforms for people to participate in. We know a few of those, right? What's one of the projects that we know that's a good, solid project that people need to be looking at, Faz?
Well, I think so. Solid crypto projects seem to be a bit hard to find. I think Bitcoin is rather solid because it promises nothing. That's what's solid about Bitcoin. It is what people make it. So it's not lying. Other cryptos, we can even say Ethereum. Ethereum, is it lying? Well, it possibly could if it doesn't live up to its promise. If it's supposed to be, good for I love using Ethereum. I use it all the time. It's supposed to be good for having smart contracts and stuff like that until it fails. And then people don't like it anymore. So is there a guarantee there? Are they lying? I don't know. And each crypto that's out there seems to address something different. IOTA. Yes, I got into IOTA in the beginning too. So is that still a super micro transactions kind of crypto, or has it moved on to something else now? I don't know. I lost track of it. I haven't heard anything about it. VET, VeChain. I love the idea of VeChain, but it seems to, well, still not hearing anything about it. I hear it's popular in China or something, or might be used in China. If that took off, great. I have a lot of it. HBAR, I thought that was controlled by like corporate entities and stuff. So all of these three here came with a promise. IOTA was microtransactions, if I'm not mistaken. VeChain was supply chain stuff, and HBAR I forget. But they all had a promise, which is more than what Bitcoin has. Who do you hold accountable when that promise isn't met? Is it who?
It depends on who's responsible, but that was great answer, Faz, but I have a different answer. My answer is this. It's the Deep Network. The Deep Network is brought to you by NerdNode. We are not sponsored by NerdNode or Deep, but we do enjoy the project. Forged in Crypto, some of you know who he is. Those who don't, he has been around FazRadio for the last several years. He was part of the Gala ecosystem when it was up and running, well, I guess you could say, in the past. And this is a different kind of node network. And we're going to be having an in-depth show on that very, very shortly. We want to keep raising awareness around this, what Nate and Timbo over at the Collective and the teams that are working on NerdNode are doing are absolutely fantastic. I know them personally, both from behind the scenes and in person, and they're working hard to make things work.
It's good to hear. Yes. Well, they're gonna make their announcements soon, and then we're gonna follow up with whatever they'll let us talk about. By the way, Mr. Titan was not paid to make that message.
I made my disclosure when we talked about it. Yeah, we're not sponsored. There's nothing changing hands or anything like that.
We were at one time, but we're something
that was a while ago. Yeah. That was like a year and a half ago.
More than that.
You think? Was it? I'm terrible with time.
Well, whatever the case is, we're not being paid for it now, and so you must still like it.
I do. Are
you to pay you more money? Is that it?
You funny. You laugh at me for butt snorkeling and so forth. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people in the crypto world that are full of that are full of complete bullshit, right? But Nate and Tim and everybody else that we've been fortunate enough to be around, I've never had cause to question anything that they say, which is odd, right? Because you know me, I'm like Mr. Conspiracy Theory and Mr. Dig Deeper and everything else, and so
that doesn't compute.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
They're good people. They're really good people. At least I think so.
Mm-hmm. Let's get back to this. I hear. Maybe these are a bit old. Oh wait, I went a bit.
What are you doing?
I was looking through the comments.
Oh.
What's the Faz answer to this? What was he talking about? That was separates the facts and functionality from the promises and speculation.
That's a great quote. It really is.
What was he talking about?
I'll even agree with Shanrad on that.
What I say right? On what? The Deep Network?
Faz is rarely right. So soak it up, soak it in, let it begin.
I don't know what I was right about.
He doesn't even know when he's right, see?
Nope. I don't know when I'm right. I'm just told I'm wrong because of the perception. If you perceive that I'm not right, then I'm not right, right? See, what you're doing when you're talking about the perception, we've had this before. when you talk about perception, you're talking philosophy, okay? And the perception, is reality what we think it is? That's what philosophy talks about. And if you feel that you're a rich person, are you really a rich person? Is money really a thing, or is it a perception of being enabled? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you can't say that with physics. You can't say that with the color blue. Okay. The problem with our understanding of the world is we don't understand everything. So when you start saying, is it a fact that XX means that it's a woman? What do you mean by fact? It's not a black and white thing. We're starting to find out that a lot of things in nature are on the sliding scale. Something's partially a woman and partially a man and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
That's how organisms work. So you have some things that are more of one thing than another. And yeah, I'm gonna keep beating on this because people want they want a black and white answer on things that you can't get a black and white answer on.
I'm trying to tell you, everything in this world is perception. Even money. Money is a perception. You want to know how?
Quantum physics, you can say that. But if you're going to talk about just how things work in this world, some things are not. Some things are just physics. Again, you can't.
Physics has been proven wrong. Newton was proven to be wrong.
Physics is not a wrong, right thing.
You're arguing it both ways. You just said a minute ago you can't I'm
trying to argue with your point of view here, and it's not working too well, obviously. So if a plane flies through the air, no matter how you perceive it, it's going to continue to fly through the air. That's how physics works. Now, you can't say science was wrong. What happens is we don't understand certain things about what keeps it up in the air. So when some planes do fall, don't stay up in the air, we don't know why. And
gravity only works part-time.
Is it wrong? No, we weren't completely right. We were partially right. That's where you don't have shades of gray. I mean, you have shades of gray here. You don't have black and white. So plane's going to stay in the air whether you believe it or not. And it's going to fall out of the air, and you won't know why because you don't understand enough about how it works. Why don't you learn about how these things work? Learn why things work the way they are. The why behind the why.
But that's based on somebody's perception of how it works.
Electricity doesn't require my belief in order to work. It just works. The radio wave propagation doesn't require my belief to work. It just works.
Are you sure about that?
Whatever you want. It just works.
You can send a radio wave out and eventually it'll dissipate, right?
That's not what I said. I said radio wave propagation. The very fact that it propagates at all, the very fact that electricity works at all, the very fact that a plane can fly at all, those things just work whether you believe it or not. You want to start talking about where the concept breaks down. Science didn't break down there. Our understanding broke down at the fringes. We don't understand it completely. So we don't understand the human body completely. We don't understand plants completely, or apparently the environment and the weather on this planet completely either. So yes, I like this. Ice says Newtonian physics wasn't proven wrong. We just decided to look at it differently. It still works. Okay, it's just not it's not a complete system. Just like Aikido isn't a complete martial art. So saying that physics is broken is a bad statement. You're not going to get anywhere with that. You're going to make yourself feel smart.
That clip that I played 2 or 3 weeks ago from the Joe Rogan Experience, where that Harvard and Oxford physicist was on there, explained how there's a problem with science because Newton was proven wrong, but they had to jump through hoops to try and keep at least some of that and come up with explanations for some of it, so that the entire science world wasn't squished like a bug. He explains it. And you want credibility? You've got Oxford and you've got Harvard, which are two of your favorite sources on this planet.
Here's a problem with smart people. Okay, smart people have a lot of things right. You know, if you are Harvard and Oxford educated, you get a lot of things right. But you can also get things wrong, and you can have things wrong inside of your correct model of how the universe works. Okay, and so there's plenty of room in Newtonian physics to represent something better with a different way of doing things. But Newtonian
perception.
Physics, no. Newtonian physics works just fine. You can drop something and it falls. It works well for certain things. It doesn't work well for all things. So you can't say that it's wrong. Those people dedicated their lives to study one thing. Yeah, and it's very easy to get in what's an echo chamber. There's an interesting programming book called The Cathedral and the Bazaar. And the cathedral is where you study and you learn and you refine. And the bazaar is, like a marketplace where you can try new and different things. And so each of them has their good points and each of them has their bad points. Being in the cathedral means you don't see a lot of real world practical things. Being in the bazaar means that you can't focus on one thing, that there's too much stuff to mess with. So saying that somebody dedicated their life to study one thing, that isn't an advantage. I mean, not a complete advantage, it's a partial advantage. Radio waves don't work on perception. Yeah, I tried saying that. If you put two towers too far apart, they won't work. This doesn't prove that you can't transmit data via radio wave. It just proves that it doesn't work under all circumstances. Well,
so it's not repeatable. It's not science, Faz.
Of course it is. You can make it. You can determine repeatably how far radio wave will propagate in the Earth's atmosphere. Now, what's funny about that, especially with flat earthers, is radio waves would propagate a lot farther if it wasn't for the fact that the Earth was round. Okay. Now, if you put two radio antennas a certain distance apart in space, you're probably going to hear the same. You're going to have the same signal, and it's going to degrade less because you don't have an atmosphere, and you're not having to worry about going around a spherical object. The way radio waves propagate around the Earth is they bounce up and down through the atmosphere. Well, in space, they just go straight. They're actually going straight when in all directions when they broadcast on the Earth too. It just happens to be the Earth's atmosphere makes it so they bounce back down again. And since the Earth is round, they go bunga da bunga da bunga da bunga, just like that. They go up and down and up and down. Totally different in space. Now, what's interesting about Newton is that he was able to figure certain things out without ever going into space. I believe he said an object in motion will stay in motion unless it is acted upon by another object. So he figured out, some very basic stuff about how gravity worked. Now, once Einstein came along, Einstein was able to figure out more about that and say, well, Newton's right, but. And then there's all sorts of, things that Newton just couldn't predict because he didn't know enough. Newton wasn't wrong. He got it right. He just didn't know enough, and he didn't expand his understanding enough to know all the things that Einstein did. So he wasn't wrong. It just doesn't apply to all the situations we have today.
And Einstein had to have a special theory of relativity created because the original theory of relativity was challenged successfully. Well, so then it turned into special relativity.
First of all, I can't say that I completely understand the theory of relativity, and I would suggest that you can't either. As far as the original theory of relativity, now you're not talking about science. You're talking about some other thing involved in hiding something from somebody or lying, or that's a totally different animal.
Has nothing to do with lying.
Whatever version of relativity is out there or was out there, you can, if it's provable through if you can reproduce it, it's correct. That's it. It's all about whether it's reproducible. Whether that's how facts work. That's how we understand facts to work. Reproducibility. And no, there is no perspective here. What's interesting though about science is we have learned that that a lot of things that we think are unchanging in science are affected by when and how they happen. So you could say there's a perspective there, like how fast you're going. You know, if you're going really fast and bouncing a ball versus very slow and bouncing a ball or whatever. There's some perspective stuff there, but in our everyday life, no. Planes still operate the same every single day. And the reason they crash, honestly, is because we don't build good enough airplanes. We don't understand fluid dynamics well enough to be able to handle all the shit that our atmosphere throws at us.
All right, so we're already at an hour. Why don't you introduce the changes to the FazRadio show that we're going to be putting into effect?
I think you
start
should.
us off.
I think you know more of that. I think you know more of that.
I do.
Good.
So
things are changing.
There's good news and bad news depending on how you look at it. We're going to stick with a live show. And right now we're thinking we're going to leave it remaining on Friday nights, but it'll be at a different time. Likely for right through the end of the year, starting in the next week or so, it will be a lot later. So it will be somewhere around 10 o'clock Eastern or 7 o'clock Pacific. And it'll be a shorter show. We're not going to go for an hour or over an hour like we are today. We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it short and sweet. Keep it to about 30 minutes.
Why?
And we're going to be talking about.
Not even telling us why. There's a conspiracy here. He's not.
Listen.
He can't admit why it's short.
Can I finish what the fuck I'm saying? I swear to God.
It's just diverting.
So we're going to keep it to about 30 minutes. We're going to talk about the previous week and what's going on and what's coming up on the FazRadio show. So we're essentially going to turn the green room into a different type of show. And the actual FazRadio show, we're going to record that during the week, and it'll be released likely, we're guessing right now, like Sunday afternoon, maybe 2 o'clock on Sunday. In both audio and video form, we're going to produce a show. It's going to be a production. It's not going to be live.
Why?
So, because that's what we're doing. There's no conspiracy. We want a more professional.
The real reason why he's not doing that.
We want a more professional show. We want something a little bit more structured. We want to go to the next level. We want to be taking steps to improve more and more. So now that I got that out of the way, if you wanna run this stuff here, if Worth was around longer, oh my God, I can see for shorter shows. Shanrat, I'm telling you what.
Okay,
I thought you were Team Titan there, and all you're doing is beating me up now.
The reason why is, aren't you like coaching football or basketball or something?
No, so I've got a lot going on. So my boys play high school football. So Friday nights is Friday Night Lights. So they'll be playing football, and I want to go watch my kids play. And then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I am coaching my daughter's volleyball team. So I am tied up for those areas. And then also, if we want to give full disclosure, because we're nice and transparent here on FazRadio,
we are.
We looked at the metrics, and we analyzed show after show after show. We have 3 years of data to support everything, and the newest data to bounce it off of, because we've evolved, right? But our data tells us that only about 10% of our followers watch the show live. 90% of those people watch the recording of the live show, and they watch that.
Not important.
And they watch that on Sunday or Monday. We also looked at the audio versions and the downloads and when those were played. Thank you very much, Jay Soto. I love my kids. Absolutely. I'm going to be there for them however I can. I coached them baseball, basketball, all that stuff too. So it's my daughter's turn to have dad as a coach. So we analyzed the downloads on the audio show, and guess what? It was Sunday and Monday also that the show was listened to the most. So that's the reasons we chose those days and those formats. There are people who love, we've gotten a lot of feedback that love the live, so we're not going to get rid of the live. We're just going to push it back a little so I can have a life, and I know Faz enjoys having a life too. Faz is going to be going through some moving yet again here in the near future, so there's going to be hiccups on Friday nights with that. So we just figure, all right, if we push the show later, the odds are very good we'll both be there, so we won't have to cancel shows. So those are all the whys behind the whys on why we're doing things the way that we're going to do them. We're evolving.
We seem to be doing really well on TikTok. I don't know what it is about TikTok.
I've been telling you for years, boy, and you won't listen. Finally you did, and look at you go.
You have not. Okay, first of all, you haven't been telling me for years. You've only been doing this for like a year or so, year and a half, and I've been a bit busy during those years.
Oh, man. M-Ice, thank you so much. I know, we had feedback that Fridays are tough, yes, for a lot of people. And it's the end of the week. Everybody's excited. They want to spend time with their families. They're exhausted from work, yada, yada, yada. So lots of love, M-Ice. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday to listen to us. That's why we're just going to do a short Friday show live, and then the main longer show will be released on Sunday, and we're going to produce it so it'll be actually something fun to watch instead of just two guys static on a screen.
We did leave something out because we're talking about producing it so we can have like different sections of the show. And one section is we do want to have like some more swag, not swag, but swag. We want some merch, FazRadio merch out there. For example, I got an Amazon account, and I have it to where you can start printing that stuff up on demand, like T-shirts and stuff like that on demand, because otherwise we'd have to buy a whole bunch. So we want to have some merch to support the show so we can do stuff. And if people start increasing, then the merch will start coming in. And maybe one day this could be our full-time job, just arguing with each other. Then we can really get into all these deep things that Titan likes to avoid, which is radio wave propagation in space versus on a curved planet.
So first of all, the radio waves have to bounce off of something to propagate and to form a wave. And what do they bounce off of?
No, that's not that. No.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So all the waves that you can see and a bunch of waves that in all the ways you can't see, like light, it's going up and down really fast. Radio waves, same thing. It's going up and down really fast. Okay. That's how they work. Now, this thing going up and down really fast, it can go up while it's going up and down really fast. It can go in a direction, and it can hit the top of the atmosphere and bounce back down. So that wave is vibrating. Somebody said everything vibrates, which is probably not wrong. That wave is going back and forth and hitting the atmosphere and forming a different kind, going up and down, forming kind of a different wave there, but it's still going around the Earth because it's kind of trapped in the atmosphere. Now, some of it will leave the atmosphere and start propagating through space.
So why do those waves why aren't they subject to gravity?
So you're starting to get into my scientific knowledge deficit, which is apparently they don't get subject to gravity enough for us to notice big time. They probably light certainly can be subject to gravity, and I'm sure they do too. Like a black hole, a black hole will bend light waves around it, and probably.
But then, if those particles aren't subject to gravity,
not during how is
oxygen then subject to gravity?
We have oxygen sitting on this. We have oxygen on this planet being held close to the planet by the sheer mass of this planet. Otherwise, the oxygen would just go elsewhere into space. The problem is, if you don't believe in space and you don't believe that the Earth is a big round rock, then you're not going to understand gravity as much. My
gravity is electricity and magnetism.
how thick does a flat earther think that the Earth is anyway? Is it just a few miles thick? I mean, how thick is it? Because if it's not very thick, it's not going to have a lot of. We don't know. We have satellites. We have a space station up there that goes around the Earth all the time, several times a day. They know that the Earth is round. Okay, we do understand gravity to work when you have a big piece of mass that's going to hold things close to it. And if it's big enough, it's going to even hold light and radio waves close to it, or
that's incorrect. If you drop a rock and something lighter, it'll hit the ground at the same time. So it has nothing to do with mass. If you take a giant rock, a rock this big.
Wait. I'm talking about gravity attracting objects. As far as the mass of the individual objects, that's apparently that works the same. For example, the Apollo astronauts went up to the moon, and they had a hammer in one hand and a feather in another, and they dropped them both. They both hit the ground at the same time. Now, the reason why the feather hit the ground at the same time as the hammer is there was no air up there. And feathers, of course, will get blown around through the air. But if there's no air, it's just gonna hit the ground. We have also duplicated this in vacuum chambers as well here on Earth. So we've duplicated what we've seen on the moon. So from what we understand, to the limit of my ability, gravity acts upon all objects the same. It will pull them both in. They're not going to go any faster. If you're gonna say, well, but the object goes faster, apparently not.
So listen, if you take a solid steel ball and a solid plastic ball, and you drop them at the same time, what's going to happen?
In a vacuum or in an atmosphere?
Here, just right here, today, with an atmosphere. Yeah.
Depends on how far you drop them and how windy it is. So let's just say that there's no...
Yeah, it's in your room with no wind.
Well, they probably hit the floor at the same time.
Sure about that?
Yeah. That's
okay. So then your assertion that mass affects the gravitational pull is incorrect.
No, I said
the solid steel.
I said no. You're pulling that to the side. I said when you have a large mass, it attracts things. That's what we call gravity. It will attract anything. It'll attract Pop-Tarts. It'll attract, evil dictators like Idi Amin. It'll do all sorts of things. So it doesn't matter what you are, it'll still attract you. Now, if this planet, this big rock happens to be covered by water, for example, and you drop that plastic ball and the steel ball at the same time, the plastic ball is hollow and has air inside of it, and it's going to be
solid plastic.
Then it's going to go down, but its water will act upon that mass. So water acts differently. Since we're just talking about gravity, they're both going to hit the ground at the same time if there's no water. Can we please?
No, sorry, AG. No. Okay. Gala is done. They're dead. They're gone. Bye-bye. See you around like a donut. We're done with Gala.
Give us a reason why we need to talk about Gala, because it's all been talked out. Eric Schreiermeyer is an asshole. Okay. What they're doing seems to be some sort of rug. If there's money to be left on the table, Eric is chasing after it. He's trying to farm people for their money. And I think personally, he's trying to do something. He's trying to do this kind of capitalistic, company, but he seems not to be doing it the best way. Okay. And people have a problem with that. That's not going to change. My ED. What's that? Erectile dysfunction? What? So that's why we're not talking about Gala. There's nothing new anymore. I mean, it's the same old stuff all over again. Are we supposed to talk about the new things that they did on Townstar? I mean, what's exciting about that? We got into it because we thought it was going somewhere, and I still have a bunch of Gala Games NFTs. I hope Miranda's takes off. It apparently isn't going to be what it originally was thought. I hope that they come up with something good. To me, it's a speculative play to buy and hold Miranda's NFTs. So I'm making a speculative play. I think it might go somewhere, or it may not, in which case I'll just be dumb. But that's okay. It's a speculative play.
Yeah.
So can you say Lycan was right the whole time?
Oh my
Lycan
God.
was negative the whole time. Okay. Lycan says so many negative things. Yeah, some of them are going to be right. But no, I don't think the whole time he was right. I think he's saying negative things all the time, and he's ignoring the fact that Gala Games actually has delivered something. They have. They just haven't delivered on all of their promises. They've disappointed a lot of people because they haven't given people what their hype has illustrated. They've made a lot of wrong turns. But what's new? What new can we talk about it? So that's it. I think AG is Lycan. I think Lycan needs to move on from Gala Games because he has so many problems with it. I had a talk with him on the Discord a while back, and he just wants to just be there and just, I don't know. He wants to die on this hill of Gala Games is terrible. Okay, so it is. I think everybody's kind of figured that out. Now what? He wants to warn people away continuously. I think he needs to amp it up. We need to see what Lycan is doing. What's he really doing to make sure people stay away? Just belly aching about it? I want to see him reporting them to the Better Business Bureau. I want to see him doing all these things to make them actually, I don't know, be held to their promises. Other than that, it's just bitching. So just bitching isn't fun to report on. Instead, we like to talk about how the earth is flat.
It is. I'm glad you're coming around. Get it?
Coming around the mountain. If you have a huge magnet. So here's something we don't understand. We don't understand magnetism very well either. We have an idea how it works, but we really don't completely understand it. There's no known insulator for magnetism. You can't put something in the way of a magnet, anything. You can't put anything in the way of a magnet and have it be less magnetic or protected. We can redirect magnetism. By the way, magnetism, yeah, well, anyway.
Get a copper tube and put a magnet down through it. Hold the tube like this, drop the magnet in there, and watch what happens.
There's all sorts of tricks we can do to redirect magnetism. In fact, when you and it interacts with electricity in certain ways. If you spin a magnet and put a charge through it, you can do all sorts of neat things. So, but it doesn't. Our perception of magnetism isn't going to change how it works. Our perception of electricity isn't going to change how it works. Nothing about physics. Our perception isn't going to change. What it might do is it might illuminate us. If we somehow could see in ways that we don't see right now, our perception would show us additional things about magnetism that perhaps we could insulate against it. So Newton wasn't wrong. He was right for his what he needed to talk about.
See, there you go. Facts that you're perceiving not to be facts.
It's not.
He was shown to be wrong on a couple of things there, Faz. Look it up. Mm-hmm. Look it up. He was shown to be wrong on a few things, and they made special rules to make him not as wrong.
So if you get part of an understanding of something and somebody else builds upon that, that's not you being wrong.
That's not what it was.
That's not you being wrong. That's you working together to be right. So
Newton, Einstein, all of them. They were wrong on things, but they can't go back on that narrative because if you say they're wrong, then that means that everything they did before that is also wrong in the perception of others. So they can't say he was wrong. They have to say, well, there's certain circumstances where this would be a better way to look at it. So all they're doing is gaslighting you into not totally disregarding everything that they discovered. That's all it is. It's kind of like a cover up. They're just gaslighting you.
I think you're using the wrong the wrong mechanism to determine whether something's right or wrong. I think you're using the wrong method. how about you try it a different way and try to when somebody says something to you, try and figure out how they could be right.
No.
So Newton was right about a fair amount of things. He wasn't completely right, but he was more right than what came before. Now we
More
can
right
say,
than wrong, just like Titan. See how that works?
We can say nowadays that a lot of the things he came up with just were flat out wrong. But we've been building upon what he's been doing. We've been illuminating why things work. He didn't know why a lot of things work, but he knew why some things worked, and that was good enough.
We can have the mountain of greatness, and it'll be a picture of me and Newton and Einstein, and it's all people who were more right than they are wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you're not going to be up there because you think that the Earth is flat.
He
will to his dying breath, he will say that the Earth is flat. And okay, if you want to feel that way, it's not going to affect you. You know, hundreds of years from now, when hopefully we're out in space colonizing other planets, you're not going to have flat earthers. They will have all died off. And right now, it doesn't matter whether you're a flat earther or not, because you don't experience it every day. But I will tell you who does experience it: pilots and astronauts and people who sail ships and all sorts of people. You don't do any of those things, so it's not going to affect your life. But it would affect your life if you were a pilot. So if you became a pilot, you'd understand.
I don't want to be a pilot.